Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. And if you're watching this, that means you've made it 4 parts in to the 30s ranking of Survivor seasons. Before we start, I just want to quickly touch on the fact that there are 95% of you watching this video are not subscribed to the channel. What an absolute travesty. It is free. It doesn't cost any money. It takes no time. So please, if you're not subscribed, please consider doing so. And without further ado, let's get on to the rankings. For the part 4, this is the finale of our ranking. Jeff's gonna have his V-neck on, and we're gonna, read the votes. Okay, guys. All right, getting into it. Survivor Cambodia, starting out. So this is probably, in my opinion, um, it's between A and S for me. I'd go with. I think it's an S tier. I think it's past Heroes versus Villains. I think it's past Micronesia. I think it's past I don't think it quite hits Cambodia or Cagayan levels simply because of the fact that Cagayan has more character moments and that Cagayan has more stars. So Cagayan has Spencer, Cass, and Tony, which are all stars. Stars being people who can carry a season on their own. Whereas in Cambodia has a bunch of really good players, but stars is not the word that I would use to describe the people on Cambodia. But I will say the gameplay on Cambodia is the hardest gameplay we've ever seen, and that includes Winners at War. Even though the Winners at War might have been the fastest gameplay we've ever seen, Cambodia is definitely the hardest gameplay that we've seen. Just hardcore, cutthroat, game buyingness, and that turns off a lot of people. For me personally, I do not mind that at all. I'd rather they go out there and be complete game bots than go out there and be like Gabon, where nobody knows how to play the game, and everyone's just like a really good character. And that's why Cagayan is at the top, because it does such a great job of balancing both of those. And Cambodia is behind it because it does such a good job of doing one of those, which is the gameplay part of it. And then Pearl Islands does a good job of balancing the character part of it. So, if you're up in the S tier, it's because you do something very, very, very well. And Cambodia does game very, very well. Um, Production does a great job implementing twists like hiding idols and challenges, and all it starts to really push in the advantages that they started doing it in Worlds Apart. Obviously, it didn't work in Worlds Apart because Worlds Apart is way down in the D tier, but they saw what was working, and they did good with what was good, and they did away with what was bad, and that's what you want out of a season that is an S tier. And as we start, it's raining outside very hard. If it's raining where you are, at this point, this time in New England, it is downpour every day. Getting back on track. So yeah, for me, it ends up as the second best season of all time. People might say, well, why is it ahead of Micronesia? Because there's no stretches that are as good as that Micronesia post merge. And to that, I say, okay, but the Micronesia, everything else besides the merge to the air boot, the pre-merge in Cambodia is better than the Micronesia pre-merge, in my opinion, and therefore it slides past Micronesia. Next up, we have Survivor Co Wrong. Fun fact, Survivor Co Wrong was the first season to be filmed out of all these seasons. It was filmed before Cambodia. It's just that Cambodia, because of the fact that it was a in-person vote, and they had to go film not until the people voted, Cambodia was actually filmed in 32nd order. So really, this should have been the first season that we were talking about. And with Co Wrong, you simply have the case of probably the best cast that we're going to see in this part of the ranking. And for me, that's why it goes to above Samoa. It's probably the highest on the A tier. I can't put it at S tier because of the fact that there are duds on this cast. There isn't many. There is not many. Darnell is a dud. Maybe that's just because he was the first boot, but he's a dud. He's a dud. I didn't see much promise in him. Who else is a dud? Julia is a dud. The 3-girl alliance that included Michelle, everyone but Michelle is a dud in that alliance because I can't remember the damn names. You know what I mean? So there's an element of it has all the elements of a great season. It has like the Debbie boot, a great vote, a great tribal council. It has advantages that are played correctly and incorrectly with Ty and the Super Idol. This is the only time I think that the Super Idol is done correctly. Make people risk their games in order to get that much power that you get from having the Super Idol. and that's what Scott does, and it doesn't work out for him. Speaking of Scott, Scott and Jason, great villains. Sydney, great hero. Ty, great hero. Aubrey and Michelle, great contested final tribal council. Ty actually gets to the end. Finally, your fan favorite gets to the end. That's what you want in a good season. Resuming, we have Millennials versus Gen X season 33. And this might be a shocker for some, but this is going to go fly up to the S tier behind Heroes versus Villains. I have to keep behind Heroes versus Villains because the Heroes versus Villains pre-merge is better than any stretch in Millennials versus Gen X. But what in the thing that keeps Millennials versus Gen X from being near the Kagians and the Cambodias of the the list is the fact that they're awesome duds. There's some people who I can remember her face, but I have no idea who she is. I really didn't care about who she is. The people who are duds luckily went out early though, and therefore this season has a boot order that really favors the season being a good season. You have gameplay throughout the entire thing. You have a cast that's all like there is no villain on this cast. They had to make Jay a villain. If you have to make Jay a villain, your cast is very very lighthearted, and that's a really good refresher. After the 20s where you had a lot of unlikable people, on your casts. So for that reason, it does go in X tier because it does likable cast who can still play hard very, very well. And it does what Nicaragua couldn't do, which is the old versus young dynamic, and it actually does it well. Your pre-merge is actually very underrated because the majority and really the part where it shines on the pre-merge is the swap, because the majority on each tribe gets blindsided every single time that there's a vote in the swap, which is I believe is 3 or 4 votes where it's 3-2, and the 2 people find a way to make it through the final tribal council. So it ends up working out. Jay and the Michaela boot, absolutely iconic. The best post vote out tribal council reaction probably in Survivor history. It's definitely up there with Chickens, damn it, and Scott. You're not going to use it, and who else? Stephanie yelling at James on our way out of trial. It's up there with all of them. And for that reason, this season has a lot. Then you have the rock draw, and then you progress through. You have players that play really hard, like Zeke and Michaela, and then you have a winner who is likable, Adam, who has a great story, and he wins unanimously. Honestly, the only issue is that the other 2 people in the final tribal council are people who you don't care about, which is Hannah and Ken. If they put Hannah and Ken more in the edit, I know it's kind of hard to edit Hannah and Ken for different reasons. If they had edited them into the show more, it would be a lot more better of a season, in my opinion. Next up, we have Survivor Game Changers, season 34. And this season is the case of a very good pre-merge and a very poor post-merge. Now, I will say that there are some good post-merge votes. It's just the editing for the post-merge is god-awful. People say that editing for the whole season is bad. No. It's just the editing for the post-merge. Specifically, votes like the Zeke boots and the Andrea boots are so unedited where I walked in thinking, why is she going home? Why is she going? There's nobody you just showed me for 10 minutes straight. This person's going home. And then for the last 10 seconds of the pre-tribal, on the beaches. Oh yeah, maybe we should vote on Zeke, and then just cuts the tribal and Zeke gets voted out. It doesn't make any sense. Also the Aussie boot where they plan, okay, is it going to be Zeke? Is it going to be Andrea? Is it going to be Zeke? And then Debbie tells five people, okay, maybe we should do Ozzy, and then it just cuts tribal council, and Ozzy goes home. They I think in the season they tried to replicate the magic, the magic that came from Cambodia, the unpredictable and really game body season, and they couldn't, and so they just tried to edit it in a way that shocked you. And sometimes you want to be shocked, but not to the point where you don't understand what's going on, or you're frustrated because you're like, why is this person going home? I was never told why they're going home. And the cast is very top heavy on this season, and the sad part is that the boot order for this season makes all of the people who you care about and who are rooting for go out early, and you're only left with 3 or 4 people, being Suri, Zeke, Brad Culpepper, and Ozzy, maybe, maybe, you know what I mean? So there's, and maybe Michaela, if you like Michaela. So that is that 5 out of the 13 people who made it to the merge. That's not a good thing. So I'm going to end up putting Game Changers at it's probably going to go top of C tier for me because of the bad editing and because of the bad boot order and overall not so great cast. Next up, we have Heroes versus Hustlers. Definitely a mouthful. I don't know what type of drugs they were on when they made that name, but I need some of those. You have a case of a very good cast and a very boring merge, not post merge, just merge. The first the first four votes after the merge is the healers getting pagonged. But I believe it's once Lauren gets blindsided, I think it's Lauren. It could be JP. Yeah, it's the JP blindside is what wakes up this season and makes it so vigorous and fun. And then from there, you have a great last 3 or 4 episodes where it's just blindside after blindside and Ben swapping back and forth. I know people don't like Ben as a winner because he out his way to win, out his way to the end. I would also personally like to see, a final tree, final three where it's Devin, and Ryan and Chrissy, because that would be a lot more competitive than the one we got. I didn't speak on this before, but I don't like the change to the final tribal council. I think it takes away from your big speeches like Reed gave and like Suhawk gave. You're never, going to get those speeches back unless somebody is willing to speak over the rest of the jury, which is not going to be, the case most of the time. And on top of that, the jury, we as the audience get connected to people who make it to the end, and the jury are people like, oh, you got voted out. Like, so when the jury comes at the people who we're connected to, it makes you feel some sort of way when the entire jury is yelling at your favorite player at Final Tribal Council. So I really don't like the jury adjustment, but I do think that you have a stretch that is amazing in the last 3 episodes, and your pre-merge is great with Joe Mena and Mike, and it's very well edited season. And with the reward where they had to wait in line, after the merge, and like there was an idle clue, and then the digging, like really that this whole season is really really well done by a production, and they made what could have been a middle B season or like what could have been a D season into probably a low A season or mid A season, ahead of probably behind Philippines, but ahead of San Juan del Sur for me personally. Next up, we have Ghost Island season 36 out of 40. So we're almost at the end. And this season, there's not much to say. You have Dom, you have Wendell, you have Laurel, and you have Chris Noble. Everybody else, I could care less about. I really don't care about anybody else. You have, people who are under edited. It's really just a poorly cast season. We needed more, people are talking about more diversity. I'm much more concerned with age diversity than actual, racial diversity, because, just like people have different experiences by race, people have much different experiences by age, and you could tell everyone just kind of had the same experiences on this season. And it's funny because the two older people on the season, Dom and Wendell, go to the end and tie. I think this season has a great moment at the end, as like with the tie and Laurel breaking it. But it was very predictable what she was going to do and who she was going to vote for, and because of that, that doesn't really save the season from being a D tier season, probably ahead of Redemption, ahead of Worlds Apart, but it does not even crack C to me personally. Next, we have David versus Goliath, which is a complete rebound from Ghost Island. With this season, you have just all around a great cast. There again for these next couple of seasons, there's not much to say because they can kind of be summed up in a sentence or two. With David versus Goliath, you just have a fantastic cast. I can't say it cracks S tier because for me it doesn't hit the spot personally. But you have a fantastic cast, fantastic pre-merge, fantastic post-merge, and you just have so many characters that you can root for in the season. And it's similar to Millennials versus Gen X, in which like there really isn't like a true villain for the season. Everyone is like very likable in the season, with Christian and Davey and Angelina and Mike White and Nick. Everyone's very likable in this season overall, and that's why it'll end up at the top of my A tier. Moving on, we have Edge of Extinction. This one is pretty average. I'd say it's around below average, but I'd say it's probably behind Game Changers, but I'd say it's behind Cook Islands. It's not at all-star levels of bad, though, so we won't go there. But Edge of Extinction, it's the people or like the gameplay you really don't have to talk about. It's the twist. Letting people come back from it in the game. It didn't work, from out of the game. Like you get voted out and you get to come back. It didn't work in Redemption Island at all. I don't know what Jeff was thinking, but Jeff gets very personable about his twists, and he doesn't like to have people tell him that his twists aren't good. But this one was just a bad twist. It was a bad idea. I can understand it for Winners at War if it took up less time, or if we had longer episodes. But for this season, it was 100% unnecessary and unwarranted, and it was not fun to watch. Next up, we have Island of the Idols, and this is a tale of one thing ruining a season, yet it's still a pretty good season overall. For me, it ends up going probably right behind Borneo. It's not that bad of a season. Obviously, the whole Dan thing sucks the air out of the season, and you do just overall have a pretty boring merge all the way, up until your favorite players start to get voted out, because then you're kind of emotionally connected to them and you get drawn in. Really, up until the Elaine boot at Final 7, I believe it is, there really isn't much to talk about. Elaine goes, and then Janet goes, which is super entertaining. And then, in the finale with the fire making, and there's the final 3. There's a lot of interesting people who go out way too early in the season. I think the boot order does not do the season any favors, and the people that you want to see get to the end, some of them get to the end, but like people like Jack and Chelsea and Jason and Ronnie, all these people that you want to see get farther, get replaced by people who you don't want to see. You know what I mean? So the season gets saved by a very good pre-merge with some very, specifically the post tribe swap votes are very good, with Jason and Jack's demise being very entertaining. But aside from that, there isn't much to boost the season past the likes of Borneo, Palau, Philippines, San Juan del Sur, these other seasons. And for that reason, we move on to Winners at War season 40, and this season is going to go. It's going to go at the bottom of S tier for me. I'm debating as to whether Heroes vs. Villains beats it out, and it's 100% yes. And then I debated in my mind, to whether or not it beats out Millennials vs. Gen X, and I have to say it doesn't. The thing that moves this cast to the top of the list to S tier immediately is the cast. It's the best cast of all time, newbie or returnee, purely off the fact that they're all winners and they're all very, very good players. The issue is that a lot of similar to the reason why similar to the reason why Game Changers, wasn't the season that we, hyped it up to be, was because the boot order was not what you wanted. All the people who you were seriously interested in, really thinking all those people go out in the first 7 votes, and then the merge, the first few votes in the merge, aside from the Adam, grabbing the idol off the center, trying to, there isn't much interesting stuff other than the vote changing 80 trillion times. And really, this season only gets good, in the post merge after the Sophie blindside that Tony pulls off. Other than that, this season really does not have much going for it. And it's sad that this season, with such a caliber of cast, can't pull through a top S tier season, and instead it's at the bottom of S tier, which by no means is an insult. It's just I would like my all winners season to be at the top of S tier, but it just cannot compete with Cagayan. Cagayan's balanced with characters and gameplay. Cambodia has such good gameplay. Pearl Islands, the best old school season, until Heroes vs. Villains. And speaking of Heroes vs. Villains, amazing, the best pre-merge of all time. Micronesia, the best post-merge probably of all time. Millennials vs. Gen X, a very overall likable cast and a theme that really works, and you have everyone who you're rooting for, but they're also really good players, and you have a really a dynamic post merge and some very, very entertaining votes in people who are interested. Winners at War, it's behind all of those. It's still there. It's still with them because of the cast, but it can't compete with those other seasons because it doesn't have what those seasons have, in my opinion. So to go over it, D tier, we have Ghost Island, Worlds Apart, Redemption Island, One World in Thailand. C tier, we have Game Changers, Cook Islands, Edge of Extinction, All Stars, Fiji, Australian Outback, South Pacific, Nicaragua. B tier, we have Palau, Borneo, Island of the Idols, Guatemala, Blood vs. Water, Vanuatu, Caramoan, Gabon, Panama, Africa. A tier, we have David vs. Goliath, Korong, Samoa, China, Marquesas, Philippines, Heroes versus Hustlers. Jesus Christ, who named that season that? San Juan del Sur, Tocantins, Amazon, N4 S tier. In increasing order, we have Winners at War, Millennials vs. Gen X, Heroes vs. Villains, Fans vs. Favorites, Paralons, Cambodia, Cagayan. I thank you guys so much for joining me on this journey in this series, and I intend to make a new series. I do not know what I should do. Say it in the live chat right now. Say it in the comments later. You can email me. You can contact me in any way on my Instagram. It's on my bio. Just let me know what you want to see. What type of series and or just one-off videos or collabs that I should do. I will be collabing with Snuffed very very soon. We're going to do a podcast on season 41. So if you have a suggestion, just make sure it's not a suggestion for season 41 because I'm already doing that with Snuffed. And y'all should go check out Snuff's channel and subscribe to him with notifications on because he is going to be doing a collab with me. And we'll probably live stream a podcast, if not pre-record it, and it'll be all about 41, 26 days, 3 tribes, and just overall what we think 41 should be and what we think it is going to be. Obviously, no spoilers, and it's just going to be chill. So join us. That'll be coming out sometime either if it's live, it'll be coming out Monday night, and if it's not live, it'll be coming out Tuesday afternoon Eastern time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please sub, like, do all that good stuff, and we are